We don't make the decisions in this city. We don't get to decide who gets poisoned by the pollutants. The people who are attacking the climate charter do. They decide the world that we have, and then we deal with it. Do you think that's right? Hell no!
Organizers in El Paso are fighting to pass an ambitious new policy. The Climate Charter, or Proposition K, confronts fossil fuel companies and big polluters on their home turf. El Paso is one of the most polluted cities in the nation, and despite being one of the sunniest cities, it gets less than 5% of its electricity from solar. If the Climate Charter passes, it would set goals for renewable energy, create green jobs, and protect the city's water. But more fundamentally, it would put climate policy in the hands of the community, enabling El Pasoans to design their own future.
By a show of hands, who here can canvass right now and go knock on doors? That is a lot of people.
This moment could be a huge turning point. But in a state where big oil dominates politics, can a grassroots climate movement pull off a landmark win?
Damn it, that was my last flyer. We're trying to talk to as many people who are directly affected and have a self-interest in moving away from the refineries and the fossil fuels that are harming us here in El Paso. So this is like the most impacted place. Could not be more impacted than in the front door of the refinery. Part of it is investing in jobs in El Paso and investing in wages in El Paso, because that's why people are leaving. I think 615. So it's yes to Prop K is what'll be on the ballot. Prop K, Proposition K. Okay. She wasn't on my list, but that's good. To pass a legislation and to get buy-in and to organize around huge climate legislation like this is extremely important here. A lot of people's jobs and livelihoods are tied to the exploitation industries, whether it's going to the Permian Basin, the biggest oil field in the world, or working at these refineries.
El Paso is just a few hours away from the Permian Basin. 40% of the country's oil and gas comes from this region. Fracking in the Permian used 72 billion gallons of water in 2019 alone, and production is projected to grow 40% by 2030.
Everyone can relate to having to ration water, being scared of running out of water, and hearing how much of it is wasted in the Permian, how much is going to fracking, really resonates with people.
The Climate Charter would ban fossil fuel companies outside the city from using El Paso's water. It would also aim to put El Paso Electric under the control of the city, which could lower rates for consumers. These industries have been waging a well-funded opposition campaign. El Paso Electric has spent $50,000 to lobby against the charter. And recently, a national organization with ties to the Koch brothers began funding a campaign to block the charter.
I think the biggest thing is profit. If there are like actual climate goals, if there are like studies and metrics that you have to hit before you build stuff, like they're not going to be able to extract as much profit as they could. They're trying to say that this is coming from outside of El Paso. That's been like the constant attack, that this is drafted by someone outside of here, that this is part of a national plan, and that's like not the case. Like the people who wrote it are here, the people who are knocking doors are here. That's why like people are behind it, because it's not a top-down solution that is hoping that it solves the problems. Like it's actually what people were saying. This is what's the problem, this is how we should fix it. And I think that's why so many people are getting behind it, because it's actually drafted by and for the community.
This is Barrio Chamizal. This is a residential neighborhood, right, of mostly immigrant families, 100% Spanish speaking. When we look more closely, the residents that live here, majority are women and children, single mothers raising their kids. Unfortunately, it's also one of the only neighborhoods that is mixed with industrial and commercial zoning. The boundaries that define our neighborhood are literally trucks, cars, and trains. The boundaries that define our neighborhood are sources of pollution. This area beyond is industrial zone. The Bowie High School is here, and the Bowie Bus Hub is right here. We also have the cardboard recycling center and the metal, electronic, and battery recycling center behind our elementary schools. There's about 12 fires a year behind Douglas Elementary School, and the fire marshal said that that's only going to get worse with climate change.
El Paso's Barrio Chamizal sits directly on the border with Mexico. Residents have been organizing against high pollution levels for years. But the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality blames emissions on Mexico and has refused to take action.
For me, as a mother and a resident of this neighborhood, I started seeing my own child suffer health ailments and having problems breathing. When a mother comes to you with these concerns, we have no other option than to take action, right? It's been the burden of this community to have to contend with the massive industry that surrounds us. The polluters aren't living in communities like these. The polluters aren't experiencing the health ailments that is ours.
The Climate Charter builds on the demands residents in this community have been making for years. It would require environmental impact assessments for all city projects before City Council votes to approve them. And it would mandate yearly reports on all emissions generated in the city.
This is the world in Barrio Chamizal that the kids live in and breathe in. You know, we have the trucks on the bridge, the Bowie Bus Hub, and the trains carrying toxic material. But the kids and us as residents, as mothers, we're walking out of this world and we're stepping into a new world. This is the world that the children see and that they want to live in.
We're a community of a Latina community, and I think we've all built the city for ourselves. Despite the barriers that we have, despite having, again, these fossil fuel oligarchs wanting to exploit us and suppress us and silence us, we've created a beautiful Paso, and I wanted to continue to be like that. I wanted to grow and sustain itself and be here for my children, for my children's children.
Voters will head to the polls on May 6th. If the Climate Charter passes, it could become a model for communities across the country to craft their own climate policy.
A lot of times, awareness on climate can lead to hopelessness or lead to just being overwhelmed. And I think that this shows you can do something. Like there is an answer, there is solutions, you just have to organize for it.
We'll be able to develop new jobs for our community that focus on our well-being, that protect our well-being rather than putting workers at risk. The Climate Charter is guided by the community. And if the community does not agree with something, then it will not happen.
So this could be an example for the rest of the country. It's also, look what you've done. This should be the example, right? Because we know no one else is going to do anything about it. The cost that the politicos keep talking about is an economic cost that we've been footing that bill for fucking centuries, man. They took our land, they took our water, they're not going to take our health, they're not going to take our future. We're going to get that shit back.